I'm in the big leagues, told him don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh, send it through quickly. I'm making his dog, like I'm in the big leagues. Told him that I gotta go, dog. I'm riding a road, y'all. I think that I'm back in my bag now. So I need that go, y'all. Got hits when he throwing the fastball. Just too quick for it, peeling off like the whip orange. Seen they effort, this piss poor, I got too much.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Another Turnover, the basketball podcast where a basketball fan with zero basketball credibility gives his opinions on what's going on in the NBA. Opinions that nobody asked for. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Chris Aaron Murphy, a.k.a. Ron. And ladies and gentlemen, let's just jump right into it. Folks, the playoffs have been fast-moving with a lot of different stories and storylines and all kind of stuff that we got to get into. It's already the semifinals. Like, isn't that crazy? Like, I feel like the playoffs just started yesterday. So we got to talk about semifinals updates throughout this episode. Episode might be a little bit shorter than it normally is, but bear with me. Let's get into some semifinal news. So let's start in the Western Conference. Let's jump right into it. Let's start with the number one ranked team in the Western Conference as well as the number one ranked team in the NBA, the Phoenix Suns. So the Phoenix Suns are meeting the Dallas Mavericks and currently lead, as you're listening to this on Friday, lead 2-0. Now, I kind of feel bad for Luka in this series because I don't think this is going to be a very long series. Like, this man is doing everything that he can on his end to help this team win. But against this Phoenix Suns team, it ain't happening. I was looking at his statistics. He scored 45 points, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, nearly a triple-double in Game 1, and they lost. And then scored 35 points in Game 2. It just said, I don't want to say it's empty stats because, like, I mean, where would they be without him? Like, Lord knows where they'd be without Luka Doncic. But, like, it's not doing anything so far in this series. And that's kind of been, the knock against the Dallas Mavericks pretty much entire offense since Luka has been there. Like, he is such a focal point of their entire offense. Like, he is literally their engine, but, like, it's just him as of right now. Now, I mean, they've got some promising talent. Spencer Dinwiddie, that was a big trade for them, and I raved about it. But, like, where has he been these past couple games? Like, I mean, Jason Kidd said it himself. Like, he was quoted as saying, he's like, hey, it can't just be Luka out there. Like, somebody else has got to step up and give him 20 to 25 a night. And Spencer Dinwiddie is that dude. He can score, but hasn't showed up these first two games. But the Phoenix Suns offense is pretty much just too much overall for this Dallas defense. I mean, that has been the knock against Luka Doncic specifically. He's not a great defender. He's not great with lateral movement. Pretty strong, but really doesn't use that strength and prowess on the defensive end of the floor. But like I said, their offense, the Phoenix Suns offense, has just been too much for that Dallas defense. Specifically, though, Chris Paul. Like, let's give some love to Chris Paul. Everybody knows how I felt. I mean, if you know me in real life, you know that I've never been a big Chris Paul fan. But after last year's playoff run and what he's doing this year, and really, honestly, the year with Oklahoma City where they took Houston in 7 games, like, he has earned my respect. This man will be 37 years old today. If you're listening to this on Friday, he just turned 37 years old and still dropping buckets on them young boys. So hats off to you, sir. Respect. I mean, true definition of the point god. I mean, Game 2 put up 28 points and had 14 of those 28 points in the fourth quarter. Like, incredible. Devin Booker led scoring for both teams, put in 30 points himself in Game 2. He definitely has healed pretty fast from that hamstring injury, I'll tell you that. But an incredible performance all around from the Phoenix Suns for both of those games. The Suns are definitely a second-half team. They have been all year. I think, I can't remember the statistic, but I mean, their wins in crunch time was like the number one ranked. I can't exactly remember how many games like decided by 5 points or less they won, but it's been majority of them. Over 90% of them, I do know that. Now, I think the Mavericks can get at least one game in Dallas, but I don't see this being more of a 5-game series. If this ends up going 6, I would personally be shocked. So I've got the Phoenix Suns winning this more than likely in 5 games. I will be respectful to the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, as a Spurs fan, I can't believe I just said that. But I will be respectful and give them 1 game. I think they can eke out 1 game, but I don't see this being more than 5 games. So let's talk about the other series in the Western Conference. the money series, a series that I think will be probably the most watched series of the semifinals. The Memphis Grizzlies and the Golden State Warriors. So this series is so far tied 1-1 with both of these teams. And boy, has this series been chippy and not without the drama. There seems to be a genuine, I don't know if hatred is too strong, but there's definitely some bad blood between these squads. And it's been pretty interesting because, I mean, Memphis is a team that, they're super young, but they're very gritty. I mean, they have that grindhouse mentality from I've talked about in previous episodes, kind of from back in the day, Zach Randolph and, when all those boys were there. Mike Conley, who else was on that team? Tony Allen, like that grindhouse culture is still there, but now it's just with, an entirely new slate of talent with these young guys. But there just seems to be some, like I said, for lack of a better term, hatred between these teams. And I don't really know where it came from. Like, now, let's talk about some of the drama. Like, game 1, Draymond Green had a pretty hard foul against Brandon Clark. Now, he went to swipe for the ball, ended up hitting Brandon Clark in the face, and I don't know, somehow ended up grabbing Brandon Clark's jersey on the way down and pulling him down. Now, he did try to catch him, like, at the end, but that was pretty excessive. Now, he got assessed a flagrant 2, and, if you know anything about the NBA, a flagrant 2 is an automatic ejection, you're done for the game. So, was that a flagrant 2? I guess by definition of the rules, I think it's unnecessary and excessive. Yeah, it's a flagrant 2 by textbook, but whether he was trying to hurt Brandon Clark, I don't personally believe that. I know Draymond Green has a history, but I don't believe that. But, Draymond was talking about it on his podcast, The Fallout. It seemed like he did the podcast during halftime or while he was sitting in the locker room, being ejected from the game. But that's neither here nor there. But he was basically talking about how, like, hey, he didn't think he was going to get a flagrant or get ejected from the game. And, the crowd was chanting, throw him out, throw him out, throw him out. And he was, he said he was about to, start dancing on the crowd because he's like, I'm not about to get thrown out. But then he ended up getting thrown out. So, and he was like, wow, really? Me? Like, I'm thrown out? Now, I think this is multifaceted because, 1, I do think it was unnecessary and excessive. 2, I don't think he was trying to intentionally cause any harm for Brandon Clark not to be in, the game or anything. But 3, like, it's Draymond Green. Like, he has a history of these random acts of, weird injuries happen to players, like him, sticking his finger in people's eyes and kicking people, where they shouldn't be kicked in the nether regions. Like, so, I mean, it's Draymond Green. He has there's no leeway with him. Like, they give him really no grace. It's like, basically, hey, like, you say one thing or you do one thing, you're pretty much gone. So, but that's kind of been his thing since, he's been in the NBA. He has been, the Golden State Warriors enforcer, per se, and he's kind of taken on that role. And, I mean, done it pretty well, but he's kind of taken on that no-nonsense, but he doesn't get any sort of leeway from the league. Ooh, I don't know if y'all hear that. It's storming as I'm recording this right now. Hopefully the power stays on. But that's pretty much been, that was game 1. That was the drama in game 1. Now, game 2, this is at the beginning of the game, like 3 minutes into the game. Gary Payton III has a wide open layup. And Dylan Brooks hits him in the head while he's in midair, about to go for the layup. Hits him in the head. Gary Payton III falls awkwardly and falls on his elbow. Tries to catch himself, but falls on his elbow and ends up fracturing his elbow. The report just came out earlier today. He's going to be out 3 to 4 weeks, so that's pretty much, I mean, unless the Warriors make the finals, like, that's pretty much the rest of the playoffs for them, or for him, I should say, which is super unfortunate because he's been having a pretty solid year overall, and especially a solid playoff. But so that happened. Dylan Brooks has been suspended. It just came out earlier today that he will not be playing in Game 3. He's got a 1-game suspension, which I don't really know how I feel about that, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. Another piece of drama that happened in this series, Draymond Green got elbowed in the face. I can't remember exactly by who it was, but elbowed in the eye socket area. His eye was swollen. He was bleeding, and the crowd, I guess, was cheering. That he's bleeding all over the place and whatnot. Which, I'm sorry, Draymond. Like, I know, like, I never ever personally, this for me, cheer when somebody gets injured, even if it's a team that I don't particularly like. But Draymond, you kind of brought that on yourself. Like, I mean, with what's happened up until this point, and like I said, his reputation, like, you really get no sympathy from anybody with some of the injuries that you've been involved with other players. I'm not saying that what Memphis did was right, like cheering on his injury. I don't agree with that one bit, but I'm sorry, like, you not getting any sympathy for that, like, there's not a whole lot I can say about that. But overall, these two teams are pretty much evenly matched on both ends of the floor, at least in my opinion. This should be, like I said, the money series should be the best series of the semifinals. I would give a slight edge overall to Golden State. I mean, championship DNA, like Steph Curry has said on multiple occasions. No Dillon Brooks for Game 3. Golden State could steal home court. I mean, they've already kind of stolen home court by winning Game 1. And in a late game situation, I trust Golden State a little bit more than I trust Memphis. Memphis, this is their first run as, the current iteration that they are. And the Golden State Warriors do have the, the nucleus of their championship run. Steph, Clay, and Draymond, and even, Kevon Looney and Andre Iguodala was there for those championship teams too. So I would give slight edge to Golden State. I think this will probably end up going 7, and I would give the edge to the Golden State Warriors. But let's transition to the Eastern Conference. Let's move on up to the East side like the Jeffersons. Let's talk about my second favorite team in the NBA, my favorite Eastern Conference team, Boston Celtics. Boston Celtics and the Milwaukee Bucks are currently tied 1-1 in this series. Now, this series has been unfortunate because this series has been riddled with injuries on both teams. No Middleton for the entire series, grade 2 MCL sprain. He's going to be out indefinitely. And Jaylen Brown dealing with, I believe, a hamstring injury. And Marcus Smart suffered a deep, I think, thigh bruise or whatever it was. So he was out for Game 2. So it kind of sucks that we won't get to see both of these teams at full strength. But so far, it's been a good series. Both games were relatively good in terms of, the entire game itself. The Bucks smacked the Celtics in the mouth in Game 1, pretty much controlled the game from beginning to end, and ended up winning 101-89. Giannis didn't score a whole lot, only had 24 points, which is on the lower end for him, but put in a triple-double, which is incredible. Drew Holiday had 25 points. You could definitely tell the Celtics tried to treat Giannis similarly to how they treated KD, with intense pressure on him, not giving him any airspace, but Giannis is way too strong for that. Pretty much like it was the play where he basically moved Tatum out of the way, it didn't even seem like Tatum was guarding him, which was pretty impressive. So that KD, Brooklyn defense that they tried to implement definitely didn't work. But, Celtics showed me a lot of heart in Game 2. They never panicked, and that is accredited to the coaching by Ime Udoka. At least in my opinion, it is. Brown basically said, hey, we played Game 2 like our season was on the line, and it showed. It definitely showed. They showed me a lot of heart and bounce back in that game. Pretty much dominated Game 2 for most of the game. They won 3 out of the 4 quarters. Al Horford had some incredible defense against Giannis. He turned back the clock. He looked like he was at the University of Florida again, which was pretty incredible, the defense he played against Giannis. I don't have the exact statistic up what Giannis shot against Al Horford, but it was not good. It was really, really bad. And Grant Williams also played pretty well against Giannis as well in that game too. Jaylen Brown went off in the first half at 25 points, finished with 30. Like I mentioned, Celtics won 3 out of the 4 quarters and won this game in a blowout, 109-86. So held the Bucks to 86 points. It was pretty impressive. Now, I think this should be a long series as well. I said I wouldn't pick against the Celtics again, and I'm not going to. I will. I'm going to pick the Celtics in 7 games for this one. That is my prediction. I just think the loss of Middleton will be too much to overcome. them losing by 23 points, like that's Middleton's point total right there. Like he is a perennial 23 to 27 points per game guy. Like that scoring is definitely going to be missed, I believe. Now Giannis is going to respond. Like Giannis is going to get his basically, but like he's going to have to get at least 20 to 25 points from Holiday. You know, Grayson Allen's going to have to hit some threes. Like, is Brook Lopez still playing? I know he was injured and came back, but I don't know. He's basically going to have to get help from all the others if they're going to have a chance to win this series without Chris Middleton. But should be pretty good. Like I said, I'm predicting 7 games for that series. And the last series that we got to discuss, last series is the Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers. Miami Heat lead this series so far 2-0. Now, obviously everybody knows, I mean, we all know that Joel Embiid is injured. And with no Joel Embiid, Sixers stand 0 chance against Miami Heat. Like, they stand about as good a chance as me making an NBA squad. 0. Embiid has been out with a, concussion protocol. I think, and he suffered an orbital fracture, I believe it was, in that closeout game against the Toronto Raptors in that Game 6. But unfortunately, this series really could have been great, I would say, if Joel Embiid was playing. But the Heat are too good on both ends of the floor for this Philadelphia 76ers team. Even with Kyle Lowry not playing. Kyle Lowry hasn't played both games this series. He's dealing with an injury. Can't remember what his exact injury was. But with no Joel Embiid, like I said, they don't stand a chance against this Philadelphia 76ers team. They also don't stand a chance against this Miami Heat team. They also don't stand a chance against the Miami Heat with the way that James Harden has been playing. Like, I think I guess it would be safe to say that the Houston James Harden that we knew and loved / hated, depending on what side of the spectrum you were on, that Houston James Harden is gone. Like we haven't seen flashes of that guy in quite some time. Even pre-hamstring, Brooklyn James Harden was better than what we've seen in his run with the Philadelphia 76ers. So he can't shake defenders the same way. He can't get to the rim and, shoot free throws. He used to shoot, 15, 16 free throws a game. Average well over 30 points consistently. But with the way they call it now, part of that is, the way they're calling fouls now, which I think is a good thing, that, some of those stupid fouls they used to call, for him, they don't call anymore. But he seems a step slower. It just seemed like all of a sudden, like he kind of lost his, his bounce, his, first step off the dribble, and I don't know who this guy is that we're watching, but it's not the James Harden that we grew accustomed to. I mean, back in the 2020 season, the bubble season, like, he's an MVP candidate. That was only a couple years ago. Like, that wasn't that long ago. So the drop-off seems pretty high. It's almost like, it's kind of like what Max Kellerman wrongly predicted about Tom Brady and the cliff. It's like James Harden fell off the cliff since his hamstring injury. So, but he's not getting enough shots up. I mean, he's averaging like 15 shots a game, 13 shots a game. Like, I'm looking at his box score total, 12 shots a game. Like, man, this dude used to shoot well over 20 shots a game. Like, so I don't know what it is. Unfortunately, like I said, this, the 76ers team is pretty much done with no Joel Embiid. If he comes back to play, especially if he comes back to play in Game 3, I will give them a puncher's chance. But I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if the Sixers end up getting swept. The Miami Heat, overall, like I said, on both ends of the floor, are just better than this Philadelphia 76ers team. So it'll be interesting to see what the Philadelphia 76ers do if they do get bounced in this round, which, I'm predicting they will. James Harden and his contract situation is something that they'll have to address. Now, he can opt in to the last year of his deal for $47 million, or he can opt out, and Philly could potentially offer him a maximum 5-year, $250 million contract. That is a lot of money. That is a lot of money even for Houston James Harden. But this James Harden, I ain't giving that man $250 or $250 million. I ain't even giving him $250 the way he's playing right now. So they've got some decisions to make. I mean, I could definitely see him, with the way he's played, see him opting into that $47 million, come back next season. If he bets on himself and he plays better, then you get you $200. But with the way that he's played up until this point, don't see Philly offering that 5-year, $250 million max extension. But hey, we'll see. What do I know? I'm just a fan. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's all the show I have for you folks today. I hope you have an amazing weekend coming up. If you can do all the good things, like I say every week, if you're on YouTube, like, share, subscribe. If you're listening, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast goodness, like, share, subscribe, leave comments if you could. For all my Marvel nerds and fans out there like myself, go see Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Part of the reason why I'm wearing this Captain America shirt today. We should see some multiversal goodness this weekend if you are into that stuff. But like I said, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Can't wait to talk more NBA playoffs action next week. Take care, and I'll see you on Friday.